Have you ever wondered why garlic and onions kind of stick with you and give you horrible breath? Stay tuned to find out which foods cause bad breath and which foods can actually help with bad breath on This Old Tooth. Hello, everyone. You are listening to This Old Tooth, a podcast devoted to providing you with honest, agenda-free information about how you can get and keep a beautiful, healthy smile for life. I am your host, Dr. Lisa Germain. Today, I will be taking the second small bite in my series about bad breath, its causes, and its cures. Now, I know everyone has heard the expression, you are what you eat, but did you know that you smell like what you eat? The breakdown of food particles in and around your teeth can increase bacteria and cause a foul odor. But why do we find that when we eat onions, garlic, and spicy foods that the odor lingers? There is a really good answer to that question. Those foods enter your bloodstream and are carried into your lungs. They don't just stay in your mouth. Then add to that the garlic, onions, and spices are only partially digested and still in your stomach. So every time you exhale, you expel fiery, stinky dragon breath that can linger up to 24 hours. And while the explanation is simple, the cure is not so easy. Because mints and mouthwashes that are touted for that reason really just create minty, stinky, fiery dragon breath. And this obvious attempt to cover it up can sometimes smell worse than the original sulfur compounds that are the breakdown products of those foods. So if you think about it logically, just going back to basic chemistry should give us the answer as to what will break down a sulfur compound, since that is the source of the odor. The answer to that is a polyphenol. Specifically, rosmarinic acid was found to break down the odors of garlic, onions, and spices in both the stomach and in the lungs. Now, I'm sure you're scratching your head going, what the heck is rosmarinic acid? Because that's what I did. Well, when I looked it up, what I found was that it is quite common in most herbs. Peppermint and spearmint top the list. However, sage, thyme, oregano, basil, and rosemary are also very rich in this enzyme. However, if the thought of chewing on a bunch of herbs doesn't appeal to you, eating an apple will also counteract the effects of these very stinky sulfur compounds. Now, speaking of herbs, you might have noticed that most of the ones mentioned are used in tomato sauce, and it is something we consume in abundance on pasta and pizza and other favorite foods. Yet red sauce, or red gravy as we call it in the South, is another common cause of bad breath. This is because tomatoes are quite acidic, and odor-causing bacteria love an acidic environment. And invariably, they will turn the remnants of this favorite food into a source of very smelly breath. Now, other acidic foods, such as citrus fruits, while seemingly tangy and refreshing to your taste buds, act in the same manner. And they are also likely to invite bad breath to stick around. This is especially true if you're prone to acid reflux, which can cause acids to flow back into your throat and cause a foul scent because they come up from your stomach and they are partially digested. The good news is that these foods do not get metabolized in your lungs, so rinsing your mouth with a baking soda water solution will neutralize the problem. And if this is not readily available, using sugar-free gum and mints in this instance are effective to counteract these odors. And if you notice, the emphasis here is on sugar-free, because bacteria also love to feast on sugar. Next on the bad breath hit parade is peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter, and other oily nut butters. While these snack foods top the list of heart-healthy choices, their paste-like consistency makes it difficult for saliva to break down the proteins once they're in your mouth. And because of how sticky they are, they tend to stay in your mouth for hours between brushings. Bacteria tend to thrive on protein, so the abundance provided by nut butters makes it a prime cause of bad breath. The simple fix is to remove the sticky stuff by brushing and flossing. In addition, if you wear dentures or have bridges, braces, mouthguards, or other removable appliances, don't forget to clean them as well, because unless they are properly cleaned of all these sticky food particles, they will be the source of major lingering bad breath odor. Next up is canned fish. Unlike fresh fish, canned fish, like tuna and salmon, has had time to oxidize and react to other elements. What we describe as that fishy smell comes from a compound found in fish called trimethylamines, and unless they bind with some other liquid, they tend to linger in the mouth, giving off an unsavory smell. The good news is that this is another instance when cleaning your mouth of any residue from the food particle will eliminate the odor. And rinsing your mouth out afterwards is quite helpful because this does bind those compounds and it is easier to get rid of them that way. In addition, after you rinse, you can chew on a piece of sugarless gum or maybe even use a sugarless mint to help counteract any residual odors from the fish. There are many other foods that can cause bad breath if they linger in your mouth. For example, most dairy products, including cheese, contain amino acids that react with your oral bacteria to produce sulfur compounds that can make your breath sour. As these bacteria feast on the milk solids, they create excess hydrogen sulfide. The result is that your mouth can smell like rotten eggs. In addition to dairy products, many vegetables can cause bad breath, such as Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, broccoli, and pungent root vegetables, such as radishes, parsnips, turnips, rutabaga, and horseradish. The good news about the dairy products and these other culprits is that brushing, flossing, and cleaning your tongue will get rid of the residual particles and stop bad breath in its tracks. So, now that I have discussed most of the foods that will give you bad breath, what I'd like to do is just add 2 more things that you should be aware of. First of all, coffee has a drying effect on your mouth, and this will reduce your saliva flow and allow foul-smelling bacteria to not only grow, but linger longer. The best way to balance the scales is to stay hydrated. So, for every cup of coffee you drink, guzzle a glass of water. The water acts as a constant cleansing agent and dissolves the stinky substances. The other thing I would like to mention is that while alcohol doesn't have a smell of its own, it can cause bad breath. And that is because the hops and the barley and the other stuff, including the mixers, which usually have a very high acid content and a high sugar content, can all be the source of bad breath. So my recommendation is the same as with coffee, to drink a glass of water for every cocktail that you have. And the good news is that that will also keep you hydrated and help prevent a hangover as well. So here is the key takeaway from this episode. If the food you are eating is going to be metabolized in your lungs, it is much more difficult to get rid of. And that is the onions, the garlic, and the pungent spices that we talked about in the beginning. But most other foods and the byproducts that cause bad breath can be eliminated by simply brushing and flossing and rinsing your mouth after you eat. And now for a fun fact. The blue whale is the largest mammal on Earth, but it only eats tiny shrimp because it has no teeth. I suppose that's why Jonah was swallowed whole. It would mean a lot to me if you would subscribe to my podcast and tell your friends. And today I would like to give a special shout out to my new subscribers from Overcast. In addition, don't forget to go to my website, thisoldtooth.com, to download your free copy of How to Choose a Dentist. Until next time, thank you for listening, and remember, be true to your teeth or they will be false to you.